So question number 4, strategic alliances and megas are commonly used to achieve competitive advantage. Discuss the key motivations for companies to engage in strategic alliances and megas and examine the potential challenges that can rise in there. Benandi, that's why we're doing that. What are some of the challenges that we expect? Quickly, we discussed this. We're doing what are the motivations for people to enter into strategic alliances? And what are the challenges that we can expect? So number 1, the motivation is people want to access what? New markets. Okay. Number 2, people want to um, enhance their resource capabilities. They want to attain economies of scale. They want to mitigate their risk, and they want to have competitive advantage. So these are the key motivations that are behind. So in terms of access to new markets, so companies who often want to merge, as they merge, they enter new geographic and demographic markets to quickly take advantage of local expertise and partner with the experienced people in that field to acquire them. Secondly, they want to allow for to complement with assets and research and development. So where one is strong, the other complement. The other motivation behind that is what? Economies of scale. What does it mean to have economies of scale? To have an ability of producing at lower prices. All right. Then we also have the other, or the key is on risk mitigation. Risk mitigation. Okay. In terms of risk mitigation, most of the institutions are uncertain. So they want to join with alliances to distribute their financial and operational risk between partners. Then also competitive innovation. So combining such, would want to merge so that you have competitive advantage and innovation. So what are some of the challenges that we find when institutions go into such arrangements? Megas, what are some of the challenges? So it's some of the clashes that come about because of cultural clashes. We have conflicts in leadership. We have operational disruption. We have resistance that comes in to change. We also have regulatory hurdles. Okay, so like we did, when somebody explained how the strategic alliances and megas will contribute to cultural clashes, but to explain the leadership and operational disruption quickly. Gladys. So now I want you to feel.
I'll pick on culture clashes,
Okay.
because when you go into a different market, for instance, you will find that the way of doing things, the norm of doing things in that particular market is different. So, for instance, if you market your goods in a certain way in that region where you are in, and then you go and merge with another organization in another, maybe say another continent, the way they market their goods is in a different way. So you will have cultures, differences. So it's either you go and do exactly what they do, or you, because there are others who say no, would want, since this is a major, would want also to have our representation there. So that can also cause a bit of culture differences.
Okay, awesome. Anyone picking up a point? Leadership conflicts? Eunice? I want us to discuss this will make more sense as we get to interact together. I've given you brief notes. How do leadership conflicts? Who can take it on? Tracy? Okay, Gladys?
Can I try?
Yes, please.
Okay, so leadership conflict, you might have a manager from another organization that feels that they don't need to micromanage and they don't need to be there. They can task you with a job and they expect you to get it done. Then in the other institution, you have a manager who expects to always be checking and monitoring what you're doing. So it can bring about conflict depending on the two leadership styles, which are totally different. Did you hear what I said?
No, I didn't get you. You're breaking. Uh-huh.
Okay, so I'm saying you can have two different managers. One who believes in giving someone a job and expecting them to do it on their own and just guiding them when they need help. And then another manager who expects to always handhold and give their point. So it can bring about conflict because those are two different leaders. And those are two different leadership styles that they're using.
Okay, great. Well explained. Then let's go to operational disruption. Who hasn't spoken? Vinandi, we're waiting for you.
I just spoke, but I can try and explain.
Okay, do explain.
Okay, so operational disruption is when, for instance, you have two systems from two different organizations. So you might have a situation where you have to combine the way a particular company was conducting their processes and the other company was conducting their processes. So they need to discuss how they're going to meet each other in the middle and go about their day-to-day activities. But while they're trying to make a decision of how they're going to go about their day-to-day activities and to combine what both of the companies do, there'll be a disruption in the operations, the day-to-day operations.
Okay, thank you so much for those wonderful contributions. Okay, so you've talked about the challenges of cultural clashes. Like you see, that's one of the most underestimated yet crucial challenge when it comes to megas and acquisition. So each company has its own own values at their workplaces. They have their own communication styles. They have their own decision-making protocols. So when these differ already, the friction will arise. So employees will feel alienated. They'll feel confused by the new norms. And for instance, if a failed mega comes about, there'll be a contrast. So if not well addressed, these cultural incompatibilities will erode the morale. Then secondly, there is an issue of leadership conflict. So leadership conflict comes about with a leadership alignment. Okay, so for smooth transition, megas will often result in power struggles. So executives may compete for control. They may also compete for decision making because you have these who came from this company, these, so the hierarchy will come. So there'll be internal rivalries in there. Okay, so yeah. Then also we're going to have operational disruption. So integrating the systems. So operational disruptions that will come. So there'll be mismatched resource planning systems. There'll be employees may also be distracted from their core responsibilities. So further, it may affect productivity. Then also we have employee resistance as a challenge that will come in. So it will often bring about significant job loss. So there'll be rumors that may come in of layoffs and restructuring. This can lead to some uncertainty. So these are some of the challenges that we'll look at. Okay. So we'll also go to the other part, which has to do with part B. And part is asking for the human resource management is a strategic part in achieving organizational success. So discuss how HR functions like talent acquisition, performance management contribute to an organization's competitive advantage and long-term strategic goals. So HRM, human resource management, is a strategic partner in talent acquisition. So let's discuss how HR functions such as talent acquisition and performance management will contribute to an organization's competitive advantage. So we'll start with talent acquisition. How does it contribute to talent acquisition, and how does performance management contribute to talent acquisition? So the contributions come in the following context. Number one, talent acquisition in terms of strategic hiring, employer branding, and workforce planning. Okay. So these ones are the areas we're going to look at. So let's explain those principles that you can see there. So in terms of strategic hiring, so we know that strategic hiring goes beyond just filling the vacancies. It involves, number one, aligning the recruitment practices with the organization's vision and long-term goals. So this approach will emphasize on identifying the candidates who do not only possess these required skills and experiences, but also those that demonstrate the right mindset and adaptability. So the alignment with the organizational culture, by focusing these factors like the HR will ensure that each employee that is hired will contribute significantly to the organization's strategic direction. Okay, the other concept is that of employer branding. Remember, we're looking at what? We're looking at the fact that human resource management is a strategic partner in achieving organization goals. We want to look at how some of the functions that HR has, and we've isolated two functions that number one, talent acquisition, and number two, performance management. So these are the two factors that we're looking at. Okay, in the line of the functions of human resource management. So how do these two functions contribute to competitive advantage and strategic goals? So we started with the role to do with talent acquisition. So how does this contribute to strategic management and competitive advantage? So strategic hiring will help to attract and select individuals with the right skills and mindset and cultural fit that will align well with the organization's long-term goals. Number two, employer branding. So here, a strong reputation as an employer of choice will help to attract the top talent, which will be vital for innovation and maintaining competitive edge. Number three, talent acquisition will also help HR to analyze the labor trends and internal capabilities to focus the future needs and ensure that the organization is what? Is staffed for growth and change. So these are some of the things. Okay. All together. So the other function that we must look at is that of performance management. Performance management. So how does performance management contribute to a competitive advantage? So how does performance management contribute to competitive advantage? So through the following: number one, through goal alignment; number two, through continuous feedback and development; number four, through the reward systems. Okay, so with these ones, let's just expand or elaborate. So when it comes to performance management, so in terms of goal alignment, we know that effective performance management will begin with what? Individual responsibilities that one has to the organization's objectives. So these objectives will be achieved by setting them SMART in terms of specific, measurable, achievable, and time-bound. So these goals should also align with the KPIs, which will clearly define the expectations. So employees must understand how their daily tasks contribute to the broader business outcomes. The second part is continuous feedback and development. So performance is optimized not through annual reviews alone, but through an ongoing feedback and developmental conversation. So regular coaching sessions, peer feedback, and performance check-ins will help employees to adjust behaviors. And finally, we look at reward systems. So this is a motivator. So by establishing a good reward system that will directly be linked to individuals and teams, organizations will reinforce what? The desired behaviors and outcomes. So in terms of strategic value, together, when we combine talent acquisition and performance management, they will both form a cornerstone for strategic human resource functions. So by securing the right talent and continuously guiding and motivating them, HR will ensure that the organization has, number one, the right people; number two, they perform the right tasks; number three, these tasks are done at the right time. So with this synergy, not only will there be excellence, but also to foster innovation, and this will enhance what? Customer satisfaction. So this is with regards to the role. This is regards to the role that is playing. And we also talked about culture. Who remembers how does culture, what is organization culture, and how does culture influence strategic initiatives? How does organization culture support or hinder strategy implementation? And let's give examples for that. We did this yesterday. What is organization culture? What is organization culture? And how does organization culture support strategy implementation? So in dealing with culture, we're talking about the shared values, the beliefs, the shared norms. Okay. So a strong culture can be a catalyst for strategy execution. So how does organization culture support strategy implementation? How does a strong organization culture support strategy implementation? Okay. Number one, how does a strong organization culture support strategy implementation. Number one, by aligning values and strategy. So when an organization values align with the organizational goals, what it simply means that employees are more likely to embrace change. Okay. When the two meet, people will embrace change. Are we together?
Yes.
So the shared values. So when a company matches its goals, employees are more willing to support the new plans that will come, the changes. So an example is Zanaco Bank, for instance, if they're focusing on building a culture that will support digital innovation. So putting customers first, because this is where they're able to successfully fortify their efforts. They'll successfully launch their mobile money services, especially in rural areas. So here staff will be accepted, the changes will be worked on. The second way in which organizational culture can support strategic implementation is employee engagement and motivation. Employee engagement and motivation. So here we're just told that when the workplace culture is open, when it's supportive, it will make employees grow. So people will feel motivated and they'll be involved. So it will make them more likely to help the company achieve its goals. So for instance, Zambia Sugar may promote teamwork and continuous improvement. So employees here will be encouraged to suggest other ways of working better. So people will be motivated, they'll help the company to cut costs, they will run the company as if it was theirs. Okay. The other way is flexibility and quick adaptation. Flexibility and quick adaptation. In terms of that, we know in this fast moving world, companies need to respond quickly to change. So if you have a flexible culture, it will help businesses to adjust faster when needed. So Trade Kings is known to be one that is dynamic to market changes. So during the COVID-19, they shifted their focus to producing more hygiene products, sanitizers, and thanks to that culture, it supported a fast action-oriented change. So this is another way. It's quick flexibility and quick adaptation. So we're still looking at what? The aspect to do with culture, right? So organization culture significantly influences the success or failure of strategic initiatives. So how does organization culture support or hinder strategy implementation, and provide examples? So now, how does culture hinder strategy implementation? We talked about the ways in which culture will hinder in terms of resistance to change, poor communication, and also different cultures within the same organization. How does culture hinder implementation? So number one, the way in which culture can hinder strategy implementation is resistance to change. So if workplace culture does not support new ideas, employees may what? May push back against the new plans. Okay. For instance, if you're looking at local councils, so where workers have been slow to accept digital systems, so they may prefer manual ways of doing with fear of losing their jobs. So organization culture can hinder strategy implementation in a place where the culture doesn't support ideas. Secondly, organization culture can hinder strategy implementation where there's poor communication. So when the company's culture does not support open, clear communication, employees may not understand these new strategies. So there are times when government-owned companies like Zamtel or Zesco, and the changes have been introduced from the top without a thorough explanation, some of the employees would refuse or they'll be demotivated to be part and parcel. The other way in which organizational culture can hinder strategy implementation is the different cultures within the same organization. So in large companies or multinational companies that have different branches and departments countrywide, they may have their own ways of doing things. So this can make it hard to apply strategy consistently. So organizations as a whole may find it hard. So for instance, ZESCO, which is our national security company, it had trouble in delivering same level service in all regions because of the differences in staff behavior, leadership, and morale. Okay. Any questions at this point? Yesterday, we were looking at the 2024 paper. Strategic management, the 2024 paper. So we looked at organizing culture. Let's also look at something to do with geopolitics. So what is geopolitics? Have you come up with that concept before? Have you heard of the concept of politics? What is organizational politics? Yes, Gladys? So when you're talking about organizational politics, we're basically looking at the use of personal influence and power and relationships to gain an advantage at the workplace. So organizational politics will always been taken by employees to promote their own interests, sometimes at the expense of others or at the expense of the organization's goals as a whole. So that is what we call organizational politics. So when can an organization's politics be constructive or destructive? So there are moments when organizational politics can be deemed to be constructive, and sometimes they can be deemed to be destructive. Okay. In what ways can we have a situation where organizational politics are constructive? So organizational politics can be helpful or constructive when it's used in a positive or ethical way. So there are many constructive ways in which we can categorize organizational politics. Number one, and it's used to build relationships for teamwork. Number two, when organizational politics are used to do what? To support positive change. Number three, when organizational politics are used to encourage innovation, when they're used to promote fairness and helping in career development. These constructive organizational politics. So in building relationships, we find situations where employees who use political skills like communication and networking, this may be used to form relationships that will improve teamwork. Sometimes organizational politics may support positive change where workers will influence decision makers to accept or support changes that will benefit the organization as a whole. For instance, introducing new systems or technologies. Also in encouraging innovation, so employees can also speak creative ideas. So when these ideas are new and untested, politics can help to bring in attention for these ideas. And also politics will promote fairness and inclusion. Sometimes organizational politics will be used to stand up for others, especially where people are left out or treated unfairly. Politics is also helpful in career development. So employees will use these politics to present their strengths. Their will also be considered for leadership. So sometimes being too good or quiet is not being constructive. There are also destructive organizational politics that we need to understand and must be identified. So destructive organizational politics can be harmful in an organization. And these ones are usually selfish or dishonest ways that people will use to hurt the organization and people as individuals. So destructive organizational politics can occur, number one, when you're blocking progress. So some senior employees or leaders can refuse to accept new ideas to protect their status or comfort. Sometimes it comes through favoritism or nepotism. So managers may show unfair preference on certain employees, like promoting friends and relatives. So this will ignore promotion by merit. Another destructive way that organizational politics can occur is through spreading rumors and gossip. So employees also may damage others' reputations through gossip and false stories, also creating internal conflicts and divisions. So there are political games that will create distrust and arguments. Also, decision making based on personal gain. So leaders can make decisions that can benefit themselves instead of what is best for the whole team as a whole. All right. So this is what we can say with regards to organizational politics. Any additions to that? So quick, can you remember what organizational politics, and mention any two ways in which they can be positive and any two ways in which they can be destructive? What organizational politics? Mention any two ways in which they can be constructive and two ways in which they can be destructive. Yes, Gladys.
For constructive,
Is not audible. Chole, what organizational politics and any two constructive and two destructive ways in which or circumstances?
yeah, another one is in a circumstance. Yeah, for as I mentioned, if a manager wants to instance from the other managers, so you can get maybe support from others to be able to implement that change. Then you're also looking at encouraging innovation. That's one of them, so that others can they don't feel like they're left out, or whatever ideas they bring on board, it's not like it's a wrong answer, so there should be something like it's not wrong or right, but so that they innovate. And then on the destructive part, you talked about blocking progress. So if they don't want that change, which is positive, which can help the organization to meet their goals, and then they block because of the politics. So others now group and then they block that change. So it can actually block the progress of the organization. Then
Okay.
okay, I think that's the one I can remember.
Thank you for remembering. Yeah. The other destructive ways in which organizational politics can stem, Eunice and Vinandi. Okay. So lastly, but not the least, I have another class. Let's look at organizational culture. How did we define organizational culture and how does it influence performance? What is organizational culture? I think we've been using this term over and over.
Organizational culture, we talked about it as the norms or the way things are done in that particular organization.
The shared norms and beliefs of how things are done in a particular organization. That's true. Okay, then we also talked about how it influences performance. In what ways does it influence performance? How does organization? So culture looks at the shared values and attitudes that shape people work together in an organization. So how does it influence performance? So organization culture has a very big impact on performance, how well employees will perform in an organization. It can either weaken or strengthen performance. So it may boost employee motivation and morale. Where there's a positive culture, employees will feel respected. It will encourage teamwork. Where the culture promotes collaboration, there'll be better communication. It will also support innovation. Where there is a culture that will come new ideas, the organization will adapt, and also it reduces the turnover of staff. Where the employees are recognized, they feel happy and supported. And lastly, but not the least, it aligns with the organization goals and employee behavior. So when the culture reflects the mission and vision, employees are more focused. Thank you so much for your time. I will end here. We need to start research methodology.